From Atlanta News First Plus, this is Sports Tonight.
Welcome to Sports Tonight here on a Thursday. I'm sports producer Scott Pennyman, the great Ellie, back once again. Ellie, how are you?
It's been a bit since we've done this.
I know. I always feel like whenever we do Sports Tonight, it always goes so fast because I feel like we have so much to add.
It's always so fun.
It's always so fun, right? But of course, we have to start with the Falcons, right?
This team. I'm not even a Falcons fan, and I'm frustrated with this team.
Yeah, look, there's a lot to be frustrated about, right? I mean, obviously, you got the quarterback carousel. Taylor Heineke is now replacing Desmond Ridder again. We've talked about that for the last few days. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of those things where they're playing the Colts this weekend. The Colts are a really good team. They're 8-6 football team. That's not going to be an easy win for the Falcons. Certainly when you have flux and transition at the quarterback position, which is what they have once again, going back to Taylor Heineke. So I guess, I don't know where this kind of leaves them right now. I mean, they're in a situation where they're just kind of – they don't really know, and this is why I didn't like them trading. I didn't like them moving quarterbacks early in the season. Like, I totally understand. Desmond Ridder has 16 turnovers on the season, so I totally understand why he gets benched. But this is why I don't like doing this, because I've seen this before. Look, I'm a Cleveland Browns fan. Yeah. I'm very open with that.
How many quarterbacks have they used since 2000?
Exactly.
Something like 40?
I lost count. It's almost at 40 or something like that. It's a ridiculous amount. And so many of those guys end up playing because guys were benched. Lack of performance and those things. So I totally understand. Look, coaches are on the hook. Coaches, they've got to win football games. So they can only go but so far when you have a quarterback who's turned the ball over. So I totally understand why Desmond Ridder got benched. However, once you start down that road, once you start replacing quarterbacks and bringing in backups, it starts a carousel that's not going to stop, because once Ridder, he gets benched, Heineke comes in. What's going to happen then is that Heineke's probably going to struggle at some point because he's a backup quarterback.
And then he's going to get benched for Ridder.
Exactly.
And now we're going through the carousel
all the time now.
Who's the actual quarterback?
Right.
Who knows?
And you know why you're asking that question? Because if you have to ask the question, who's our quarterback, then you don't have a quarterback.
No,
that's just what it is. There's ever since I started watching football, there was the saying, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. So that's just what it is. So I think for me, I knew what road down. Mm-hmm. I knew the road they were headed down. That's the best way for me to say it. I knew where this was headed. I knew once they benched Ridder the first time, I knew at some point he was going to get back in there, whether it's injuries or ineffectiveness by Heineke, because Taylor Heineke, look, he went to Collins Hill. He's a local product. You feel good for him, but he's not the answer. Let's just be real. He's not. He's a
not
backup
a starting quarterback. He's
No.
a backup quarterback in the
He's a
NFL.
backup quarterback, exactly. So he has a backup skill set, and what normally happens to backup quarterbacks is they may be good for a game or two, but once the defense figures out what they are, they're not good enough to be able to adjust to
Hi,
the
Tommy
adjustments.
DeVito.
Yeah, exactly. That's what happens with backup quarterbacks, right? They can have a good week or two, they get hot and everything like that, but then at some point, you're going to see
the
why they
defense
were a
figures
backup.
it out, and it's like, okay.
Right. Then their limited skill set will start to show.
They don't have that thing that takes them to the next level that makes them a starter.
Exactly, and that's why they're a backup. So that's the case with Heineke. Heineke, he's a guy. He'll probably play in the league 5 or 6 more years because he's smart. He understands how to execute a game plan. He can play the game. I'm not saying that Taylor Heineke is a bad quarterback. He can play football. But what's going to happen, like you said, these last 3 games, I don't know what the expectation should be. I mean, because they're playing against a tough Colts team, and then they finished the year with a couple tough games too. So I have no idea
against the
what to
Bears and
expect.
Saints. Okay, we'll get to the Bears.
Well,
but
I'm just saying. Look, I tell you what. I guess we've kind of hammered the topic for the last couple of days about the quarterback carousel. So I was out at Falcons camp today. Offensive coordinator Dave Ragone stepped out there, and he does his regular Thursday press conference. And when you listen to Ragone, he has a lot of he's a real deep thinker of an offensive coordinator. And look, what makes him able to relate to this situation a lot is that Ragone was a quarterback in the NFL. Ragone was a backup. Ragone did get his opportunity. And he talks all the time about when he got his opportunity, how he really wasn't ready for it. And he feels like he's more able to help out guys like Desmond Ridder and guys like Taylor Heineke because he can share his own personal experiences at the position. So when you listen to Ragone talk about these sort of things, you get a lot of deep thought because he's been there. He's been there and done that. And so he knows what these guys go through. So when you listen to him, it's always really good to really you really think about what he's saying, and he really thinks about what he's saying about these guys because you could tell it's real personal to him, and you could tell he has a passion for it because he truly knows what these guys are feeling. As a matter of fact, don't even take my word for it anymore. Let's go to Falcons offensive coordinator Dave Ragone as he addresses everything that is the quarterback position today. Check it out.
Well, anytime you go into a situation with the quarterback, one of those where go out there with performance and everything else, trying to win football games, some things don't go the way that you want. Unfortunately, at times, when you play the position, there's things that you can control and there's things that you can't.
Kind of been in that situation someone before in your own career. Like, what do you explain to him? What do you talk to him about?
Yeah, I think, in my coaching career specifically, I've, been a part of this and observed it from other friends of mine who coach the quarterback in the National Football League. And I think, one of the bigger things is, again, it's about what you do with your opportunities at this level. And then when you're faced with, something that's playing is about how you respond. There's going to be things that occur to you that some by your own doing, some not. The reality is you're going to be faced with something. Your response, ultimately, in my position or any position that's fortunate to be in this league, right? That's how ultimately you want to be able to be judged and you want to be able to grow from. And so if there's adversity or I sometimes look, right, Michael, when there's things that are going really well, regardless of position, but when things are going really well, sometimes that response tells you as much about the person, all right, is when they're facing something that's maybe not going as well. And I think when you go through different situations, you do find out a lot about yourself. And I'm even speaking for myself, as a coach, right? You get into a situation, things don't go the way that maybe in your mind you planned, so you go back to a reevaluation of yourself, because I think that's where it all starts. You go back to, okay, what could I have done differently, and what can I do the next time I'm presented with either an issue or a challenge, and you go through your process. And sometimes you go through that process, just like when we go after a game and you're like, man, I really like that plan. Okay, things didn't go according to exactly how we thought. Why? And some of those things are completely in your control that you can either fix or stay the course, and some are out of your control. And I think that's no different when you're playing the quarterback spot. We say it all the time. When that ball leaves your hand, you got to be okay because it's completely out of your control. And you have to be okay with the result. And if you're not, you have to ask yourself, why not? But you lose the control once it leaves your fingertips. And that's what we sign. Everybody who's ever played the position is what you sign up for. And like I said before in here, when you sign to play NFL quarterback, you sign up for the good and the bad of it all. Just like when you sign up to be a coach here. You sign up for some of the great things that happen and some things, right, you're trying to challenge yourself and get better at.
You just said that, you look at things as a coach and what could you have maybe done better?
Yeah, sure. You always want to take personal accountability in this business. And you want to have, and I'm sure Coach Smith has talked about it as well, like the shared accountability. When you're coaching any position and you're involved in anything, regardless if you're titled that position coach or not, right, you're always going through it. Even when when players are playing at their highest level, you're still reevaluating, right? Hey, what am I doing here that's either helping the player, maybe not, but you're always going through that process. And again, you go out there and it's every decision a quarterback makes, you go back through it with them, regardless of the outcome. You go through the process. And then you talk about, hey, how did you understand that? How did you see that? What was your explanation of that? And then I go back through the same process. Okay, what was the teaching method of that? how is it drilled? What are we looking at? Yeah, you always go back to accountability, regardless of if it's good or it's bad. I think sometimes people look at accountability as a negative situation when things aren't going well and you're, oh, I'm going to sit up here and be a martyr and take That's what I'm saying. You take accountability regardless of the action, right, when you sign up and you're fortunate enough to be in these positions. And that's basically what you go through, and I go through individually. And it's, I think, a different process for everybody. You bring another coach up here, and he'll talk about his process completely different. And I think you have to find one that works for you. And being in this business for a decent amount of years, you go through each process, and you think of yourself, okay, is there other experiences I can rely on? If not, hey, there's something new. Okay, what am I going to learn from it, good or bad? And it's an awesome opportunity as an individual person to grow, because I think that's ultimately how you do grow. Okay, again, if everything was great comfort and everything else, I don't know if you really reach your true potential. Like, I know when I was a player, sometimes my worst games, I learned the most about myself. Sometimes my best games, I thought I just moved on too quickly. And same as a coach, sometimes when you go through a performance that you're like, man, that didn't work out, the evaluation becomes real, and it comes fast. And when things are going great, sometimes you don't maybe take the same process of that. And so it's an awesome opportunity for me individually to help Dez, to help any quarterback, to help any player in my position to grow. And you saw it yesterday in practice, great attitude from the quarterback room. No different than they'll see from me going out and practice here in about 20 minutes.
Taylor brings a little bit of a, let's cut it loose attitude to the position. Is there some value in that for y'all at this moment?
I think, when you talk about Taylor, right, you have a player, not to give away his age, but right, 30, been in some, different situations in his career. I love the journeys of NFL quarterbacks. There's some that are just Hollywood scripted, right? They're drafted a certain position, everything works out for them. And then you have the guys that are really the Hollywood scripts that fight through a ton of adversity, right? Go through a number of situations, sometimes counted out, and then they find a way, right? And that's what attracted us to Taylor in the first place, and that's why he's an Atlanta Falcon and we signed in the offseason. We played against him. We saw the different energy he brings, but you saw a veteran guy who's been through a number of different situations that carries himself a certain way. And so he's been exactly as advertised in the different situations that he's been presented, and no different this week.
With an offense that I imagine is looking for a little confidence, does that attitude help with that?
Well, I think, anytime you have a different guy that's making decisions at the quarterback spot, yeah, the offense does sometimes take the personality of that person. But I think in terms of the way that we go about it, I love the way we go out and practice. And I know sometimes the outcome, right, we'll be the first to tell you as coaches is not what we wanted in some of those situations in the games. But in terms of the way the energy and how they go out and the players that we have and the coaches that we have and go out and do their job, I feel beyond fortunate to be part of something like this, because the energy even yesterday was, for December, middle of December, late December, unbelievable. And it's a credit to the people. Again, you need to go out there and finish the job. Completely understand that. But to see the spirit of the individuals, and you can even point to a Des Ridder, who obviously Taylor Heineke's in there taking the snaps, and Des Ridder's out there with great energy. It's a people business first. That's the one thing I have learned over the course of the different years. And if you have the right people in all the different parts, not just the players, but the coaches and the front office and the support, you want it more than anything for it to turn out to have great success, because when you're with the right people who believe the right things and who do it for the right reasons, that's a special place. And that's why I think you see the players respond the way they do, and you see the coaches go out there and coach them with great energy, is because we do feel that there's something special here.
From what we've seen, it seems like Des has handled the change very well and maturely. You have to remind yourself how young he is.
I asked him today. Sometimes I forget, right? Yeah, he's 24. I have a daughter who's 16, so sometimes I scratch, I know I look a lot older without the hat on. But yeah, there are times, right? He's 24. He's played a lot of football when you think of his college career, and then 16 or so starts here in the National Football League. Second year, right? And I think you go through the process of an NFL quarterback, and I said this before, if it was the same timetable for everyone, right, I think there'd be a formula everyone would follow. But when it comes to NFL quarterback, they all develop at different stages. And there was things this year that you can point to that were really, really good at Desmond, at his performance level. There's things that he's going to grow from. And again, it's not the end of the journey. And what you love about him is his spirit. And I think that carries you further in this league than anything else, is your internal fortitude to be able to handle different situations and know who you are as a person and know that you have a job to do, but regardless of outcomes, it's not going to change essentially your DNA of who you are.
Like I said, it's always good to hear from Dave Ragone. He's such a real thoughtful dude. When you listen to him out there, I actually enjoy going out there and listening to him every Thursday. Almost every Thursday I'm out there, because he's just so thoughtful and just how he approaches things. And like I said, he understands what it is to play the position. And speaking of the position, so there's been so much made, right? I mean, when you listen to national sports analysts and even people who played the game, when you hear them talking about where the Falcons should go after this season at the quarterback position, I'm telling you, more than 50% of the time I've heard people say that the perfect offseason marriage would be the Falcons doing what they have to do, whether it's trades or whatever, maybe trading to sort of get Justin Fields. Obviously, Justin Fields went to Harrison High School. He's from the area. It seems like this would be a perfect fit, a perfect marriage between a player who really he hasn't really gotten the best opportunities. I don't think anyone would disagree that Fields really hasn't gotten the greatest opportunity to succeed in Chicago. He's got a couple.
I'm a Bears fan,
there.
and I will not disagree with you at all.
Right. I mean,
This team sucks.
you have a front row seat to what's going on in Chicago, so I'm sure you have. You've seen a lot of Fields last few years, right?
And he's had his flashes. He's had his games where he sort of
Looks great, right?
looks great, proves why he was, the number 10 pick, and where he lives up to the hype, where he proves that he can occasionally be the guy.
But it's not often enough, is it?
No,
It doesn't happen
isn't.
enough. And I think that's the thing with Justin Fields, right? Because you see those flashes. I'd say about once every 4 games or so, you see the flashes from Justin Fields that lead you to say, wow, that's why he was a first-round pick. This guy could be a franchise quarterback.
Yeah.
You just don't see it enough.
Nope.
And so I don't know if that's Justin. I think part of it is Justin. I think part of it is
Justin. Part of it is the coaching.
Right. I think a part of it is the coaching and just an offense that doesn't really seem to be designed for his skill set. So, look, I think about that situation. I look at it this way. I think the best thing for both parties in that situation is to move on. I think that's the best thing for the Bears. I think that's the best thing for Justin Fields. And when you look at the Atlanta Falcons situation, clearly, we've talked about it.
You got to move on from Desmond Ridder.
They're going to move on. They're going to move on from Ridder this season. Most likely, he'll go somewhere else and be a backup or something like that. So they're going to probably pursue a different quarterback this offseason. To me, it makes sense when you look if they're going to hold on with Arthur Smith.
And we have sort of rumors. Benjamin Albright, an insider in Denver, posted on Twitter a few days ago, quote, "My gut says if Arthur Smith is kept, and like Eileen he is, that Justin Fields will be a target for the Falcons." Now, he is a Broncos insider. He's not a Bears insider.
Right.
He's not a Falcons insider.
Right.
I personally lean that they ditch Arthur Smith. Because you kind of have to. He has not been a great coach for this team. And you need to make a change, in my opinion.
I guess I'll counter that because I do sort of agree to an extent, right? Because, like I've said time and time again, very few coaches in front offices survive 3 consecutive seasons of not, especially their first 3 seasons, of not making the playoffs.
Especially when the Falcons they had the NFC South. This division is terrible.
That's true.
And they had control of it. And the last few weeks, they've just stumbled and fell. Just, you got to beat the Panthers. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, no one's grabbed a hold of it. No one's grabbed a hold of the division yet, so it's up for grabs. So this looked like a year where everything was up for grabs, but let's be real. You can't be the team that you're trying to be. You can't be the best version of yourself if you don't have a competent guy playing the quarterback position.
No, you
So I
can't.
just wonder if this offseason, if Arthur Blank is going to look at it, if he's going to go, you know what, can I fairly judge Arthur Smith and what he's been as a head coach? Because he really hasn't had anyone who's competent at the quarterback position. So I think that if Coach Smith goes upstairs and say, look, I think if we get Justin Fields, he's a better fit for how I like to coach. He's a better fit for what he can do. And we look at the weapons on offense. Obviously, we've always talked about that. Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. The
None of
weapons are
whom
there.
Arthur Smith uses.
Right, but
is
those
the
are better. Look, but just think about that, though. Those are better weapons than Justin Fields has had at any point in his career, especially offensive line, too, with Lindstrom and those guys.
Oh, my God. The offensive line for the Bears is terrible.
Right, so this would be the best offensive situation that Justin Fields has had in his entire career so far. So I think it's a perfect match for Justin Fields to come home, come to Atlanta, have all those weapons around him, and let's see what kind of quarterback he can be with some competent coaching, and then let's see what sort of head coach Arthur Smith could be with some competent quarterback play.
And good point, but
We'll see.
I don't think they keep with Arthur Smith.
They may
to
not. You may be
begin
right.
with. Moving on
may be right.
to an Atlanta area football team that's far more successful.
A little bit,
A
a little bit.
The Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
We're actually going to talk about the Florida State Seminoles first.
Right.
Because, oh, geez.
Everybody dropping out. It seems
Everybody's
like
opting out.
But go ahead and name those players off. You see.
You have Jordan Travis can't play because of injury.
Yeah.
Running back Trey Benson. Wide
Sitting
receivers Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson.
Sitting out.
Tight end Jaheim Bell.
Sitting out.
Defensive lineman Jared Verse and Fabian Lovett. And linebacker DJ Lundy.
Yeah.
That's a lot of names, a lot of really good names. You've
Big
got
time-
multiple
big time
first-round
starters.
picks
Yeah.
in that list.
Yeah, when we look at Jared Verse and we look at Keon Coleman, those guys are going to be first-round picks in this coming NFL draft, 2024 NFL draft. So I think what this tells you is that Florida State is not valuing this football game. Let's be real. They're upset. They're salty that they were left out.
I don't blame them
I
at
don't
all.
blame either.
Is
I don't
the
blame
thing.
either. No, I don't blame at all. I mean, look, if I'm going to be but you can sort of blame the college football system, right? Because what
I
this
blame
college,
the system. I don't blame the Seminoles for
No.
throwing up their hands and going, we should be in the playoff because they should.
You're right. They should be in the playoffs. And I think oftentimes these bowl games become a byproduct of what college football has created. Because when you tell everyone that the only thing that matters are these four teams who are in the playoffs, it sort of makes the other bowl games seem kind of insignificant, right? And that's what happens.
95% of FBS teams just don't have a chance.
No, and really
before a single ball has been snapped.
That's true. That's true. And like I said, what this college football system has done, the 4-team playoff, is it's made the other bowl games sort of feel irrelevant to the players. It's made it feel like glorified exhibitions. And I think that's how Florida State is treating this game. They're upset. They're still mad that they were left out of the college football playoff. And I think they're very, I don't blame them for feeling that way, right?
And you look at a thing like FCS, where they've got a much more expanded playoff system. And if you've been lucky enough to be paying attention to the FCS playoffs this year, they've had some amazing games.
Yes.
These playoffs have been so much fun to watch. And personally, I think the FBS should just throw up their hands, copy that system, because it can still lead to great football.
It can. Look, whatever the changes, well, obviously next year they're going to 12 teams, right? So I mean, so there'll be more teams but in the 12-team system, the 13th team is going to be upset that they didn't get in. So we know how that works. You're never going to solve that problem. But when you think about these other bowl games, like we're talking about with Florida State, like we said, I don't blame them for not showing up and wanting to play just because of how they were done with the whole playoff system. And if I'm a first-round pick like Jared Verse or Keon Coleman, I'm not risking my body. I'm not risking the millions I'm going to get at the next level for a glorified exhibition game, which is going to be the Orange Bowl. I'm not risking that. So I don't blame those guys at all. Look, I mean, if this was for a national championship, I'll go out there and play and I'll risk my body because I want to win a national championship game with my brothers. But I'm not playing an Orange Bowl glorified exhibition game and putting my NFL status on the line or risking injury or anything like that for a game that in the long run means nothing.
I don't blame these guys at all.
No.
However, I do blame people for this frankly stupid rumor. If I had sound bites on this stream deck that we have, I would be dropping the Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help. What are we doing here? Kirby's not ditching UGA for the Falcons.
Well, that's been one of those things that has got some smoke the last few days because they said maybe that's the reason why so many of the veteran players
really doubt
wanted to transfer. Look, I don't think the head coach of the Falcons is a better job than him being an athlete. Look, he's a
god in athletes.
Right. I mean, he's won back-to-back.
The man is going to get a statue.
He will. Yeah, I mean, and I've said this before, a really good college football job is better than an NFL job.
Yes. And he's really good as a college football coach, not just in terms of X's and O's, but all the other stuff with recruiting and NIL and massaging all of these egos that these kids have gotten all of a sudden. He's really good at that stuff.
Yeah, and when you think about the NFL, I remember Ryan Day saying a few years ago, at the NFL level, everything is sort of designed for everyone to go 8-8. Right? So after a couple years, I think Nick Saban learned the same thing when Nick Saban was coaching the Dolphins. After a couple seasons of not winning and not making the playoffs, people are going to come for your head. People are going to call for your job. They don't ever have to worry about that at Alabama. I don't think anyone's ever going to call for Nick Saban's job. I don't think in the next 8 or 9 years, anyone's going to call for Kirby Smart's job. He's won a couple national championships. They're the top of college football.
He's won quite a few years of runway here.
Yeah, he has so much leeway. You're not going to get that at the NFL level. Look, the Patriots the fans want Bill Belichick fired. He won 6 Super Bowls in New England, and fans and media in that area want him fired, right? So what do you think is going to happen to Kirby Smart if he takes a job with the Falcons in 2 years? If they're not in the playoffs, they're going to be calling for his head. So it really makes no sense to leave a high quality college football job for an NFL job because college jobs, they pay just as much, if not more. I think Kirby Smart's making more than most NFL coaches right now at the University of Georgia. So it really makes no sense for him to leave that job for an NFL job where that city's is going to be calling for his head in 2 years if they go 7-10. Makes no sense.
All right, we got about a minute left. What's on your mind?
I want to talk more about that now. Like you started me down that road. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to continue on to that for what's on my mind. That is kind of wild though, but you can't rule it out because I do think there's this element where I think every college football coach that has had a lot of success, they wonder if they can have success at the next level. So I don't doubt that that's maybe on Kirby's mind a little bit where he's going, I wonder what I could do at that level.
True.
So who knows? What's on your mind?
Peacock is going to air the fourth quarter of the exclusive NFL games that they've got without commercials. Which,
really?
If you're going to just do that, just air the entire game without commercials. What are you doing here?
You can't do the whole game. You can't.
If you're streaming, yes, you absolutely could.
I could, but I mean, Now, how does that work? Is it more revenue money if they do the commercial? I don't know how that works. I'm not smart enough to know how that works.
I don't know that stuff either. I'm not in sales.
Okay. We'll have to go up there and ask some of our salespeople, some of our beautiful salespeople, how does that work with streaming and the money? Because I always thought they relied a lot on the ads and commercials for revenue. And I don't know how that works, honestly.
All right. This has been Sports Tonight. Ellie Parker for Scott Pennyman. Don't believe everything you read on the internet.
Never.
See ya.